Welcome back, J family, to another update video. This video is probably going to be shorter than the others. I don't expect it to be very long. So to pick up where I left off, 5 days after Elijah was born, on November 11th, it was a Wednesday, David went to work. I'm upstairs in our room, and I have Elijah in his little rocker next to my recliner. And I'm sitting there with my mom on FaceTime watching TV. And I noticed something was wrong. I wasn't feeling right. She's like, and I think she could tell it too because she's asking me, what's wrong? What's wrong? I started feeling really weak. I started hurting really badly out of nowhere. And the pain started in my stomach and in my back. And within minutes, it went up to my chest. My whole chest was hurting, like really more like right here, like right over in here. No, it was more like right over in here, yeah. I'm trying to use the phone as a camera, like a mirror, and it made me push in the wrong area. It was more over to my left side. And it was all in my back, and it hurt so bad. And I was shaking, and the only thing I could do was I called Brody into my room, and I was like, please sit here with your brother. And I left my phone up here in the bedroom, and I went downstairs to where my mother-in-law was, and I was like, can I please use your blood pressure machine? Something's wrong. So I go down, I sit down, and she puts it on my arm, and she's doing that. And at this point, I'm shaking. I can't stop. My breathing's heavy. And my blood pressure jumped up to 150, almost 160 over something. I don't remember the bottom number. And it said my heart rate had jumped up also. So she's freaking out. She's like, you want me to call 911? And I told her yes, because that's exactly what the doctor told me to do. If my blood pressure or heart rate jumps up like it did before, I was to call 911 because they have the medicine to calm it down there on scene versus driving to the hospital and causing an accident or something worse happening on the way to the hospital. So she's calling 911. 911's asking her all these questions, asking if I have a temperature. She said my forehead felt cold or felt fine, but my arms felt cold. I don't remember exactly because I was in so much pain. But I remember the paramedics showing up, and they're hooking me to all these machines, asking me all these questions, and they're trying to get me to calm down the best I can. And I loved my paramedic, the female, I should say. I loved her. She was telling me to pray that Jesus will get me through it. And that to me nowadays in 2020 says a lot about a person, because 2020 has just been unbelievable at this point. So my mother-in-law is on the phone with David, telling him what's going on. He's leaving work. He's on his way. And he was wanting to meet me at the hospital. But they were saying, no, you can't go back with her due to COVID. You know, all these different things. So my mom, so I can't remember who it was, brought my phone downstairs to where I was. And she's like, do you want me to come and get the... I think she asked or I asked her. I don't remember how it went. But I had her come up here and get the babies. By babies, I mean Brody, Grayson, and Elijah. And at this point, I don't remember how everything took place because I was so out of it. So once they got me they got me on the stretcher. They got me on the stretcher inside the... Was it inside the house or out the door? I don't know. And once I got into the ambulance, they shut the doors and they're trying to hook me up to IVs. They can't get the IV because I guess my veins were shot at this point because I just lost all that blood. And I guess I was dehydrated. They checked my temperature and I am running a fever of 101.6. So they start rushing me to the hospital, and they're noticing that my heart did something. I don't know what my heart did. My chest is still hurting. I'm crying. And all of a sudden she starts giving me aspirin, and she gives me some kind of a medicine that goes under my tongue, and she said, whatever you do, do not swallow it. Y'all, this medicine burned. And she's telling me, she's like, I know it stings, I'm sorry, but you can't swallow it. Just please leave it there. So I leave it under my tongue the best I can, and I have to chew up the aspirin, which wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I guess, I don't know. I expected it to taste awful, but it didn't. So I'm laying in the back of the ambulance, and I'm just waiting till we get there, squeezing the bed because I'm in so much pain. So we get there, and we're stuck sitting at this desk inside of the hospital, waiting to go into a room. And I remember one more thing. In the ambulance, they checked my blood sugar, and my blood sugar had dropped. It was, I think it was in the 40s. So she said whenever we got to the hospital, she'd get me something to eat and drink if I could take it. And I said I would try. So as we're sitting at the desk in the hospital, she goes into this room, and she comes over to me. She's like, do you want a ginger ale, or do you want a Powerade? I said, I would take a Powerade or a Gatorade, whichever one you have is fine. So she gets me I think it was a Gatorade. So she brings one of the two over, and I'm sipping on it the best I could. And she goes over to the closet again, and she's in there trying to find me something to snack on. Nurses come over to me, and they're like, you're not supposed to have that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, she said I could. So they go over there to her, and they're questioning her. She can't have this. Why'd you give her this? And she's like, look, her blood sugar is dropping. It's already extremely low. She's in a lot of pain. Her heart's acting up. She needs it. She's like, I'm giving her something to drink. They're like, okay, well, you can give her something to drink, but she can't have nothing to eat. She's like, well, can I give these to her so she can eat them after she gets the okay to eat? And they said, yes, that's fine. So I loved her at this point. I mean, she took up for me. She knew what I needed. Regardless of what the nurses said at the hospital, she stood her ground. And so they finally get me wheelchaired over to, not wheelchaired, they pushed the stretcher over to my room, and they transferred me over to the other bed because they knew I couldn't walk very well. And I'm laying there in so much pain, crying. They hear me down the hall, and one of the lady comes in the room, and she's like, can you please quiet down? No, lady, I can't quiet down. I'm in so much pain, and you don't understand what I've been through. I just want some relief at this point. So they had me hooked up to all these different machines, and once they got what they needed, they left. So they come in there, and they're like, can you give us a urine sample? I'm like, you're going to have to help me to the bathroom because, once again, I can't walk by myself. So I have a nurse on one arm and a nurse on this arm, and they are literally tiptoeing me to the bathroom. I go in there, give them their sample and everything, and they help me back to the room. They lay me in bed, and they come in there with, the ultrasound technician come in there. And she's like, are you okay? And I said, no, I'm in pain. I'm crying. She's like, you're not going to be able to handle this ultrasound, are you? I was like, are you going to press on my stomach? She said, I have to. And I was like, then no, I can't do it. So she's like, well, I'm going to have them give you some medicine, and then I'll come and get you. So they gave me some medicine, and this medicine, y'all, I don't know what they thought they were giving me. This medicine did nothing. It literally did nothing. I'm laying there, people walking up and down the hallway, just looking at me while I'm laying there crying in pain. So she comes in there, and she's like, are you feeling any better? I said, no, I'm not, but let's just get this over with. I'm ready to go home. So she wheelchairs me to the ultrasound room. No, she doesn't wheelchair me. She pushes me on my bed so I don't have to get up. She pushes me to the ultrasound room, and she's like, now, I can't ultrasound you on this bed. I need you to move the best you can over to this other bed because it's just me and her. So I'm crying, pushing myself over to the other bed, And I lay down and she is ultrasounding my belly, and there's another ultrasound. Women know they ultrasound you a different way. So they do that, and the amount of pain was unbearable. It was unbearable at this point. So they do the ultrasound, and the lady informs me that I have some leftover particles in my uterus from where everything didn't get delivered through the delivery process. So I crawl onto the other bed, and she pushes me back to my original room, and David is in there at this point waiting on me to return from the ultrasound. So he's in there, and he says that I am freezing cold, I'm shaking and in pain, and I'm constantly going in and out because I guess at this point my body is just exhausted, and I want some relief at this point. So the doctor comes in and he asked some questions, and he literally acted like it was no big deal. He literally did nothing. He asked a few questions and went out the room. So I know some time went by, and then he come in the room and he's like, "Who's your OB?" And I told him, and he's like, "Well, do you have their number?" So I looked up the number and I gave him the phone number, and he walks out of the room. So some time went by again. I fell asleep and I woke back up, and here he comes in the room with he's like, "Oh, it just looks like you have some leftover particles, no big deal. Our OB said you're fine to go home." Okay, one, I wouldn't be here if there wasn't something wrong. And he's like, "Are you still in pain?" I said, "Yes, I'm still in pain." So he gives me more medicine, and the medicine did a little at this point, I guess because I just got some pain meds and he had to double it. I don't know. So he gives me the pain meds, and some time went by, and the lady come in there to get me ready to go, and she's taking the IV out and everything, and I managed to get up, and she's like, "Oh, well, that's better than what you did earlier." Lady, I'm ready to go home, okay? And we asked for a wheelchair because I couldn't walk, and I said I needed to go to the bathroom. So at a normal hospital, the nurse will wheelchair you to the bathroom, help you, put you back in the chair, and roll you out of the hospital to your car. Y'all, this nurse literally put me in the wheelchair, pushed me into the hallway, "There you go," and gave it to David. I don't know where to go. I don't know where the bathroom is or anything. So we're literally just wandering around the hospital trying to find the bathroom. And we finally come across the nurse, and he's like, "Oh, it's over here." So we go over there, and at this point they're like, "Okay, you go down here to leave." So David has to push me out to the car and leave me sitting there so he can go get the car and pull it up to help me get inside. And at this point, y'all, I'm just ready to get home. I'm so done with everything. I'm done with that hospital. We get home. I wanted to eat something because I haven't ate. So I ate just a tad bit. It was a little bit. And come upstairs and laid down. And I was so cold that I literally was cuddled up next to David as much as I could. And I fell asleep. The next morning, David couldn't even stand me being next to him because my body heat was making him sweat. I'm laying there saying, "I'm freezing, I'm cold." He's like, "No, you're not." He's like, your body heat's ridiculous at this point. So his mom comes in there and they check my temperature, and my temperature has reached 102. So I get on the phone with my mom and I inform her on what's going on, and she is freaking out. She's like, "You have to call your doctor. Something is wrong." I said, "I know something is wrong, but the hospital just sent me home. There was nothing they would do." And at this point, I can barely open my eyes. It literally looked like my face was swollen. Like my eyes were barely open. So she's like, "You want me to call your doctor?" And I said, "Yes, please." So she called my doctor. And she said that she called me back and said that they said they would call you back as soon as they heard from your doctor. So I get a phone call a little while later, and they're like, oh, well, we looked at the hospital report and it looks like you just have some leftover particles. You'll be fine. I said, what's causing the fever? She's like, what fever? There was no indication of a fever in the results, in the hospital results. I said, I went to the hospital last night with 101.6 fever. I wake up this morning, it's 102. She's like, oh, if you're running a fever, you need to come in. You need to be in here immediately. She's like, let me get in touch with someone through the appointment section and we'll see if we have an opening for you to come in. So I waited and waited. Everybody's urging me to go to the hospital. They know something's wrong, something's not right. So I'm laying there, and around 12:30, my phone rings, and it's the nurse from my doctor's office. She said, we have an opening at 2 p.m. Can you come? And I said, yes, I will be there. She said, we need you to go get an ultrasound right next door. And then as soon as you're done with that, come to the office so we can examine you and go from there. So I go get the ultrasound, and I guess because I couldn't walk, they were understanding and they knew that I wouldn't be there unless it was an emergency. I didn't have to get up and do a lot of walking there other than to the room to get the ultrasound done. And once we went next door, I didn't even have to go up to the desk to sign in. They had me sit down and stay put until they called me to the back. So once I got to the back, the lady checks my temperature, and my temperature is going up again. She's checking my blood pressure. She's like, your blood pressure is low. I said, it's been low ever since the whole delivery process. And she looks, and she comes back. She leaves to go talk to my doctor, and she comes back in there because my doctor was at the hospital. He had to do an emergency surgery, so she had to call him over the phone. She comes in there and says, your doctor wants you to be on antibiotics. It looks like you have a really bad infection. She said to be on the medication for a week and then come back next Tuesday. I said, okay. So I went home, took the antibiotics, and Tuesday I went back. I'm still in pain. I'm still not doing good. The bleeding has done picked up. I'm in worse shape than I was. So they get all their notes and everything. They look at the ultrasound because I had to get another one. And she's like, let me go talk to the doctors. I will be back in here soon. She is running in there, and she's like, we have to schedule you for an emergency DNC. She said, this cannot wait. I was like, okay. I was like, sure, we can't wait. We can't push it out till next week. She's like, no, we have to do this tomorrow. Oh, I'm like, really? Like, things couldn't get any worse? So they run me out of the room. They run me over there to sign the papers and everything. And they're like, go home. They will call you to walk you through everything you need to do in the morning to prep for the surgery. So I get home, and they call me, and they say that David can come in the room with me and stay there, but he can't walk around the hospital, so he needs to bring him something to drink, something to eat, you know, all that stuff, because he has to stay in the room. We get there. I legit had to do a COVID test. I had to get blood work done. And they wanted me there, I believe, at 8 a.m. My surgery was scheduled for 12. We didn't get to go into my room to have my surgery until after 12. They're like, we got to go. You know, your surgery was already scheduled, yada, yada, yada. So we get in the room. I get my jewelry off. I wipe everything down with the cloth they give you to sanitize. And they're like, okay, you know, it looks like their other surgeries took longer than expected. You're good. They come in there. They give me my medicine through my IV. I remember going down the hallways, and before we ever got to the room to do the surgery, I was out. And it's like that with all my surgeries. I've had another DNC, and I've had my gallbladder. And every time, I don't remember the room. I do not remember the operating room or anything, because whatever medicine they give you in your IV, that's enough for me. I'm out. So I remember them waking me up after the surgery was done, because I remember them putting me on a different table, telling me they were taking me to recovery. I remember going to recovery, and I woke up, I think once, and this lady is shaking me. She's like, wake up, breathe, breathe. And I'm like, she's like, honey, you have to breathe. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I was out of it. I don't understand. I didn't know what my body was doing. And they're telling me, you know, once we go home, I have to take 5 deep breaths within an hour. And after the D&C, it took me a couple of days to recover. And I've dealt with a lot. It was a long healing process. I've dealt with a lot of pain from this whole process. I believe the doctor screwed up my epidural because my back hurts all the time. He will be 2 months old, January 6th, and I still have issues out of my back. So, it is official. I will be getting fixed as soon as I get the okay to get fixed. We will not be having any more babies because my health is not the greatest when it comes to this, and I've been told by doctors and nurses and everything that if we have another one, there is a chance I might not make it out of that one. So, doing the responsible thing and doing right by my babies, I'm done having more babies. I have 3 beautiful boys, and I am truly blessed with them. Yes, I would love to have a baby girl, but God knows best, right? So that is it for my updates. That is how the labor went, that's how the postpartum went, and that is how my D&C went. If you liked the updates, please give them a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel, and I will see y'all next time. I have a big surprise for a lot of you, because I'm pretty sure some of you know and some of you don't know. But if you are ready to see that surprise, please come back for our next video.